Malatji, your evidence before this commission concerns me. You'll see that on page 52, where Chair referred you to, it was concern about vandalism at Klaperkop water station, and the other one, there were two. And that was on the 6th of January. If you look at that email on page 52. The following day, on page 60, you give an instruction, Tuesday, January 7, 2025 at 11:38. You give an instruction that the service provider will resume deployment of security guards today, 7 January 2025 at 1800 hours, at the very stations that the chair was engaging you on. So you gave an instruction that the deployment will happen from that day. So for you to come to this commission and say, I never gave an instruction to deploy because my subordinates had to do due diligence first, that is untruthful. Because that is your email where you say deployment will happen today at 1800 hours. Do you see that? We are on page 60, Director Malatji.
I am on page 60.
And do you see that in your email you said deployment to these three sites, to these two sites, was to commence at 1800 hours on that day?
Yes, it is my...
So you did authorize those deployments, and when Mr. Phiri issued letters in respect of these two sites, it was because you had authorized these deployments.
No, they, Commissioner, they, I admit I issued instruction, and if you look at the subject on my email, right? It talks to GL account for security services, Klaperkop, Brickfields pump stations, as listed here below, right? Without even, if you go to page 61, Herman Sekholela, right? GL account for security services, right? He indicates, hi, Gary, so I agree with your suggestion to utilize job in GL. It is the one relevant for this purpose. Colleagues, the GL and cost center for the security are as follows. In as far as deployment of Klaperkop and Brickfield substations, they are concerned, they are three. The department here has complied fully with the SOP that I alluded to earlier on. Hence, my instruction, right, said the deployment will commence, right, at 18 hours. So, as the Commissioner.
But Mr. Malatji, on page 52, Chair was engaging you on the same Klaperkop water pump station. And when Chair was engaging you, you said you never gave instruction for deployment.
No.
Mr. Malatji, go to page 52 and see what 52 deals with.
I am on page 52.
Do you see that it deals with Klaperkop? Today, I've just received a bad report that Klaperkop water station has been badly vandalized during the festivities. That's what the chairperson was engaging you on. It continues on 53. Mr. Malatji, kindly confirm when we may be able to deploy security, as the sites are vulnerable to further vandalism. That's the very email Chair was engaging you on. And when he asked you, in the face of this and in the face of the request for deployment, what did you do? You said, I never gave an instruction to deploy because, one, there should have been due diligence. Two, there should have been a determination of the duration of the deployment. Yet, on page 60, before those things are done, there's no due diligence, there's no determination of how long the deployment is going to be. You authorized the deployment. And arising from this email, Mr. Phiri issued letters of deployment to these sites. So for you to sit there and say, I did not authorize this, I was still waiting for my team to do a deployment and to assess how long the deployment is going to be. Sorry, the due diligence and how long the deployment is going to be. It's simply false.
I think my response was I responded not being aware of the email on page 60, right? So
your evidence changes when you see documents. It's not the truth. You will change it as and when you see documents or as and when you become aware of documents.
not necessarily, Commissioner. I think the Commission must take note of the fact that we are dealing with quite a number of issues here, right? Sometimes it might happen that when I'm exposed to what actually has happened, right, that would touch on what you call on the evidence that I'm doing. But in this instance, right, I'm exposed to the evidence. Yes, due diligence to a very large extent was done. Confirmation has been made by the department. Hence, I issued an instruction, right, to say deploy on Klapperkop, deploy on Brickfield substation, as per the scope of work that I've done.
Let me tell you what then happened after this, after you instructed that there be a deployment. The same water and sanitation went to Phiri because you said Phiri must run with the process. If you go to page 50 of the same bundle, and the email to which that attachment relates is on page 44. And you were copied on this. It's 9 January 2025.
Yes.
It says, good day, Mr. Malatji. Attached find the updated list of security deployment needs. So they were saying in addition to the two, there are these additional sites. Where you find those additional sites is on page 50.
Okay.
And letters were then issued because you had already authorized deployment on the basis that there was vandalism. Letters were then issued that there should be security on these sites as well. That's what happened. And you were copied, so you can't say, I did not know, I was not aware, because these emails are all sent to you. You can see that the email on page 44 is sent to you.
I hear you, Commissioner.
Yes. Now I want to ask you about the January invoices, because we know that these sites, the additional sites, were added. In February, when Gubis invoiced for the ad hoc services in January, did you sign those invoices? Because the January invoices would have been issued sometime in February, either in the middle part on the 10th or later in February. But we do know that at the end of January, Gubis would have been entitled to invoice. Did you sign and authorize those invoices in February?
I wouldn't say yes or no unless.
No, Mr. Malatji.
Commissioner, can I please be given
Please explain.
opportunity to explain? I wouldn't say yes or no unless, without having to say this is how the Commission should direct questions to me, right? Unless I'm exposed to those emails that I've signed, and questions are based on something that I am seeing, right? I am seeing, but now, just for the commission to expect me to some thug responses, I don't think it is fair. That is why, as we move on, I would always be accused of, not answering properly. But the bottom line is, I should be exposed to the evidence. And yes, as we move on, right, you allow me an opportunity to explain where it is necessary to explain. But under the circumstances, I feel like I'm being ambushed. See? So, which...
Are you saying, Director, you may have, but you do not recall? Is that the long and short of what you are saying?
Exactly, Commissioner.
There's a reason why I'm asking you this question, Director Malatji. You see, you told this commission that you were not aware of this ad hoc appointments until much later. Now, what I'm asking you is a factual issue. Either you approved invoices or you did not. Because if you approved the invoices for January, there's no way you can sit there and say, you don't know what those invoices are for. Because the invoices will tell you it's for this deployment at this site for January 2025. And that's your job, as we have shown you with the June 2024 invoice. It came to you, you stamped it, you signed it. Had we not confronted you with that invoice, you would also have denied and said, I don't know. I never became aware of this ad hoc deployments. I did not authorize anybody to deploy. But if you sign those invoices, then your suggestion that you were not aware of this deployment is simply false. And because it's your job, you should be able to answer that question. You should be able to say, yes, because no invoice can be paid without my involvement. They would have had to come to me. I would have stamped them and signed them. And that's how they would have gotten paid. You are not being ambushed. You came here to deal with the Gubis deployments and the payments to Gubis. That's why the emails that are attached here, and they show that over 5 months it was paid 82 million. They relate exactly to the topic we are discussing. It's not something outside of the topic that we are discussing. If you know, you can say, I know. If you don't know, I don't know, or I don't remember.
Commissioner, I hear you and I agree with you, right? The thing is, the difficulty I sometimes come across, right? You say, I do not remember. It is said, no, it means you are not doing what you are supposed to do, right? It's an assumption. But the long and short of this whole thing is, right, I'm coming to the additional lists, page 50, right? Allow me to put it on record, Commissioner, that Mr. Sogalela has taken advantage of my email dated the 7th of January. He knows very well, he should know very well, that for each side there must be GL account number, right, provided. So, having received my approval as per this email, all right, he decided to put additional sites. But I'm stating it that it was wrong of him to do that. You see, he was supposed to do as he did with Klaperkop and others, right? Avail GL account number, budget, from which this additional site would be serviced.
The email on page 44 that attaches an updated list of security deployments is sent to you. If you held the view that they must get GL accounts and other things, then you would have responded to them and said there won't be any further deployments until you have followed the process that you followed as set out on page 60. So now you're acting as if they did all this behind your back. They added the additional sites behind your back. But the email on page 44 is addressed to you. So if you thought a different process had to be followed, you could have responded to that email and said, this is not the correct process, follow a different process. Instead, what you do 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, which is the email Chair took you to on page 43, you said, colleagues, note the request for further handling. Please get Phiri to run with the process and let's monitor the progress. You did not say, no, unless there's a GL number, we should do nothing about those sites. Unless there's budget, we should do nothing about those sites. Instead, you said, please note the updated list for further handling. Phiri will run with it and monitor the progress. That's what you said. You see that you responded, it's 10 minutes later. 2034 is on page 44, 9 January. Page 43, 2045, you note the request and you say Phiri must run with it.
Wait.
So that's the sequence. Do you see that?
Please get it. Find that.
Director Malatji, do you, maybe to try and shorten this, do you accept that at page 43, that's an instruction to Phiri to action the request from water and sanitation, where you say Phiri to run with the process and let's monitor progress? Do you accept that you're instructing him to action the request from water and sanitation?
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Skakana.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commissioners. So